Hello, as asked for everyone that is following me on DB, on Dueling Book, and currently third place in the rankings in the world. I basically playing exclusively Fairy Tail to get into this ranking, and a lot of people ask me for the deck list when I'm going to DB. They watch my games, so I'm doing this because I normally don't do the videos in English, but it's reviews. There's no other way to put it. So I'm going to say my not catchphrase, my intro. Hello, followers of the Chaos Ruler cult. It sounds good, right? Because Chaos Ruler is an awesome card. Please return him back. It's kind of a joke here, alright? So I'm going to explain some of my choices here that I'm using. I don't think this is a definitive deck list. I'm going to explain some of the main ratios that are going to change as soon as Battle of Legends comes. I'm recording this day 5 of June, so Battle of Legends will release today, but Dueling Book still doesn't have the cards, so if you can't get the cards in time, so I'm going to show the deck list for now, before Battle of Legends and after Battle of Legends, what I'm thinking. I'm completely welcome to suggestions. Also, I'm not saying this is the best deck list, but I will explain some of my reasonings. So I think the first thing I need to comment is why 2 Genni and 3 Magistus. That's the amount of the cards I have in real life, actually. So I don't have 3 Genni. I never considered 3 Genni. I mean, it's not that I didn't consider 3 Genni, it's because if I don't have the card, there's no purpose on testing it, and I would probably even wouldn't play it at 3 anyways. But Magistus is a very good extender. Of course you don't need 3, but it's a very good card, and I like that. One thing that I like of having 3 is that if you trigger already all your effects and go into all your cards, normally Wicked doesn't send a lot of powerful cards because you already searched everything. So you can send extra Magistus just to banish for Snow, which is pretty cool. But Metamorphosis, I don't think this card's good, being clear. It's a worse version of Instant Fusion, and Instant Fusion, as insane as it sounds, it's very susceptible to hand traps. Also, going second, Metamorphosis is horrible. Instant Fusion at least is a monster. Even if your fusion doesn't resolve, at least it's a 1850 spellcaster on the field. Metamorphosis, you need to tribute a monster as cost, so it's extremely susceptible. I don't like this card. I think this card is awful. Actually, I just playing it right now because I don't think I have any other options. The other options are even worse. I mean, what I would play other than Metamorphosis, Terraforming, something like that. And I think Terraforming is even worse, but most of the times that Metamorphosis is good, another card would do the same thing. If I normal summon for use Metamorphosis, if I had an actual starter there, it would be objectively better. Simple as that. It would have been better. I wouldn't have to waste a card and my normal summon. So I think this card is the first thing to cut, actually. And 3 Ball is... I like Ball. I like having... this doesn't sound right in English, right? It doesn't sound right in Portuguese as well, but I like Fairy Tail Ball. Also doesn't sound right, but anyways, I like this card. I don't think you need 3 copies of her in going second, but going first, it's very good to have this card as extra push, as extra consistency, and maximizing on consistency, alright? I think this is a heavy engine focus deck, and you can play technically more deck cards, but you have to decrease on consistency. And the thing is, you need a lot of extenders and spellcasters. You need those type of cards. So Ball is an spellcaster monster per se. So I like this card. I like game 1 going first, going second, and when I go second, game 2 or game 3, I normally side out 1 or 2 copies. So it's not really that mandatory, but for game 1 where A lot of things that punish ball are very less predominant. I think this card is good. When you go second, then it's kind of hard because you have Fallen Virtus and those kind of trash cards. So when Battle of Legends comes up and we have the Endymion cards, I will cut Metamorphosis, Ball, and one Machigiro. That I already decide on that, right? I just don't know if I'm going to keep on this ratio of 2 Regulus and 1 Endymion Empire. Maybe I will increase one of the cards, decrease one of the cards is kind of hard, but I think those cards are good, alright? I think they are good extenders and they don't conflict with anything else. That's one good thing about those cards. Instead of playing the other cards I showed, they don't conflict with the rest of your deck. They are just another form of extension above everything you already have. And Endymion Empire is amazing card. I really like this card, especially going second, or maybe especially when the opponent controls a monster. It extra punishes Hydraulis, which is extra nice because Hydraulis is probably the best hand trap against this deck. So it extra punishes Hydraulis, and that's awesome because you really want to punish Hydraulis. The Magistus engine is another thing that a lot of people ask me, because I play 2 Zoroa and I don't play Liliana. Why I don't play Liliana? That's simple. I don't play Liliana because I don't want to play Genni. Why I don't want to play Witchcrafter Genni? Because we don't have Ver. It's as simple as that. I think the Ver Endymion is what makes Genni a mandatory card in this deck. If you don't have Ver, this line doesn't happen every single time. And even when you see this line can happen, Zoroark almost does the same thing. Yes, you lose one extra body, and I suppose it's more fragile against Ghost Ogre or something like that. But I think you really need Genni is a complete brick, alright? It's the only really brick in this deck. The only card that doesn't do anything in any situation whatsoever unless you discard it or fuse with something for a spellcaster. This card doesn't do anything. I suppose it can be okay in normal summon actually if you go into Artemis. But even the worst brick in this deck, that is Crowley, is better than Genni. A lot. Crowley is a lot better. You can still normal summon it, you can still special summon it with Fair Magic. He is treated as a Magistus, so he's a better fusion target for Tails or Super Poly. I don't think you need Genni actually. Yeah, sometimes I consider, but I didn't test it. When I saw that we wouldn't get Ver in the TCG when the Fairy Tail cards release, I immediately decided I don't want to play Genni. I don't think this card is coherently enough in this deck. You're playing a brick for one extra starter, and isn't that much better than Zoroa? And actually, sometimes it's worse because Liliana loses to draw. I mean, I guess Zoroa also kinda does, but it's a little bit better against draw, I think. But I don't think those cards are mandatory. If you had Ver, okay, this card would be mandatory, alright? I will probably still test it because everyone is playing it, but I think no one actually question the logic about why people play Genni. Because in the OCG, where you have Ver Magic, every single Magistus cards, you have Regulus, you have a bunch of ways to trigger Genni effect. Now, this is mandatory. Genni is definitely mandatory if you're playing all those packages. But if your only way to trigger Genni is essentially Ver Magic, hard draw Ver Magic going second, and the opponent hand traps you, I don't feel it's mandatory. I think you're just making your deck worse and playing an extra brick for no reason whatsoever, for such a small gain in return. You're not gaining that much for the price of one brick, I feel. But that said, I really would like to play. Genni wouldn't even be that bad of a card if we had vary because she always treated as Magistus, as a witchcrafter card, so you could summon her with Genni effect, which is cool. But unfortunately, we don't have it because Konami thought that it was more important to release a garbage version of Electromite for Power Patron. Thank you, Konami. We really needed the garbage version of Electromite instead. No one cares about Power Patron and no one cares about that garbage card. Why we have to have a trash version of Electromite instead of her is very, very sad. So the rest of the things I don't think I need to comment. Follows I will comment a little bit. I think follows against specifically Qtun, I feeling that it is better for you to use on your own turn. Yes, it's worse against draw, but the thing that most annoys you about Qtun is the pop effects, is the destruction effects. So for them to get those effects, they need to synchro on your turn. But if you follows on their turn, they will just pass with track makers and 2 Qtun synchro sets. So you don't, it's full combo, right? The half-board garbage that people invented doesn't exist. There is no half-board, that's full combo, right? This is full combo, okay? He passed with full combo. So Fualos doesn't do anything, I don't care he doesn't have Zalen on the field. That's still full combo. So when you go second against Qtun, I'm starting to think that Swallows is better for you to use on your own turn, even though it's worse against draw, but draw is rare in Qtun. But even if it wasn't, you still have a better shot of winning if you punish their synchro summons, I think. So I really like Swallows in that sense. And I started to think that you should use on this way against specifically Qtun. Against the other decks, sure, just vomit Swallows as anyone would vomit Maxi, 0 skill, and you win for no reason. It's as simple as that. And Super Polo is amazing in this deck. Forbidden Crown, it's a broken card going first, going second not that much. Sure, you can still attack directly, but the problem isn't that. The problem is most of the times you don't think that Forbidden Crown accomplishes anything. It doesn't trade very well with the opponent's field. So I'm trying to question in Forbidden Crown, but I don't have any idea of a better card to play, alright? I tested Bell, but I think that Bell is sometimes even worse than Forbidden Crown. I mean, I suppose it's better against other decks than Qtun. Bell is definitely better than Crown against Sky Striker or Mitsurugi. So if you're afraid about those decks, Bell is very good. But Sky Striker is a free matchup for this deck actually. Mitsurugi isn't, but Sky Striker is. So maybe would consider that, I guess, but I don't know. That would be. I also consider Ogre, but Ghost Ogre, I don't know. I think Ghost Ogre just works against Qtun and that's it. The other decks don't care about Ghost Ogre. Oh, Dunzi. You don't need help to win against Dunzi. Dunzi is another free matchup. Dunzi is so bad, and especially bad against this deck. It's so easy. You have Santa Claus, you have Super Poly, you can always eat their Drastias and they will have absolutely nothing after that. It's almost impossible for Dunzi to win against you unless you misplay. I already lost against Dunzi, but because I misplayed actually. It wasn't the fault of the deck, it was my fault, I recognize that. So you also don't need Ghost Ogre to get a better matchup against Dunzi, you don't need that. The matchup that is your worst matchup is Qtun, and that is the matchup you need to think about it. So I'm thinking about Crown if it is that good against Qtun. I mean, it's amazing going first, but going second not that much. Trust is mainly to punish Fidraulis, isn't that good going second, but it is very good going first to punish Fidraulis or another hand trap, I suppose, to set different dimension ground. I'm playing the anti-spell because it doesn't conflict with the field spell. Instead of Secret Village, you have to replace the field spell. Rivalry is okay, not that good. I start to think to replace it with Solemn Warning, I suppose. I think it's a little bit better. Rivalry feels very susceptible to falling virtues, and against a lot of decks doesn't feel very powerful as well. Judgment is absurd, it's FTK. Purulia for Elf Note, Lightning Storm and Duster are very, very good against Branded. It's good against Sky Striker, but you don't need extra help for Sky Striker, but it's welcome, alright? It doesn't hurt to have extra Lightning Storms for Sky Striker, it helps really much. As Santa Claus is very weird, Kaijus are kinda mid, but also somewhat good in this format, I feel. Against Sky Striker, of course, you insta-win, but if you're playing against Qtun, I think it's very cool because it works really well with Crown and Super Poly. They get into a dilemma. It works also very well with Fualos because they don't know how many monsters to pass. It doesn't matter how many monsters they pass, they will always get punished. So it's really cool. I really like Santa Claus, and I'm playing Santa Claus specifically because he's light fin. So if I face Elf Note and I have Super Poly plus Santa Claus against Santa Claus, their Crystal Wing, and then use Super Poly with Drown Dragster and Santa Claus into Moon Dragon. Fairy Tail, extra deck monsters, I don't think you need the extra fusions. Sure, it feels good to play it, but you don't need it. If I would consider an extra Fairy Tail card, it would be the second Wicket. I think if it gets negated, or if you have to banish it, if she gets hits with Spark, it's good to have a second Wicket. I think it's a good resource, but also not completely mandatory. You don't die by not having the second Wicket, but it can help. And I'm instead playing T2 Magistus rank force for extra utility. Ninaruru is a lot more recurrent than Riliona. The negation effect is okay, but most of the times you're more scared about the back row. Sure, against some decks, Riliona really shines, against Basguska specifically. But if I had to cut one card in this extra deck, it would probably be Riliona, actually. I think it's a lot more situational than the other cards. First of all, a lot of the monsters in Qtun are already dark, so even if they see your hand and they pass with, I don't know, there are 4 dark synchros on Qtun. And there is also, how is it called? Zalen. So it's very easy for them to pass with 2 monsters, with dark monsters with different attributes, so Moondragon basically works as a better version of a sea monster. If they saw your hand and pass on with only one monster, they still don't play around it, because all you have to do is summon one Spellcaster monster, Super Poly, go into Shorozo or Zoroa, and so that works. That's very good. So I like to play that mind game. And if for some reason they don't respect that I have Sea Monster of Theseus, they still don't play around Super Poly completely, because they will eventually get into 2 dark synchros. So there is no way they completely can play around Super Poly. So I don't think you need Sea Monster of Theseus. It's an extra deck slot that you only use when you're losing, essentially. When you pass with nothing, you set a Super Poly, you go into their turn, they start to combo off, and you use Super Poly. And then you die, because sure, you took off 2 monsters, but they made full combo. No one cares. So I think Super Poly, you don't need Sea Monster of Theseus, alright? You don't need, maybe sometimes you feel kind of weird to have Super Poly in your hand and not Sea Monster of Theseus, but if you play smart, you can still punish them correctly, because they always, you went on a synchro, and even if they for some reason don't see your hand, don't play around Super Poly, you still can use Super Poly in one way or another. It's never a dead card against Qtun, so as long as you play smart, you don't need Sea Monster of Theseus. So that's it for the deck profile. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.